Space was silent around the blue planet called Earth. For years, the galaxy had watched humanity grow stronger. The Galactic Empire thought humans were still the weak race that once begged for peace. But that time was long gone. Admiral Rayner stood inside the command center of the Terran Fleet. His eyes were fixed on the holographic map floating in the air. Red dots marked the Empire's warships moving closer to the Terran border. He said in a calm but cold voice, "They are testing us again." Around him, officers worked quickly. The sound of computers, soft voices, and quiet tension filled the air. On the big screen, one red dot crossed the line, the border known as the Silent Veil. Commander Lee turned to him. "Admiral, the Empire's scout ship has entered our space." Rayner didn't look surprised. He had expected this. For months, the Empire had sent small ships to test how far they could go before the humans reacted. "Send the warning," he said. A message was sent through subspace frequencies. It was simple. "Attention, Galactic Empire fleet. You are crossing into Terran space. Turn back immediately. You have been warned." The message was repeated 3 times, and then silence. The Empire didn't reply. On the other side of the border, the Imperial commander laughed. He was a tall alien with pale green skin and golden eyes. "Humans," he said to his crew, always pretending to be strong. "We will cross their line and see what happens." His fleet of 10 ships moved forward slowly, like predators approaching prey. But something strange began to happen. Their scanners stopped working. The radar turned black. Their communication signals started to break. One of the ships reported energy spikes all around them. Then, a flash of blue light. One of the Empire ships vanished. No explosion, no sound. It was there one moment and gone the next. The other ships panicked. "Command, we lost the Tyrak," the captain shouted, but there was no response. Static filled their speakers. Another flash. Another ship disappeared. Inside the flagship, alarms screamed. "What is happening?" The commander yelled. "Find the source." The crew tried to scan again, but something invisible surrounded them. A voice came through the static, cold, mechanical, human. "You were warned." The Empire commander froze. "Retreat!" he shouted, but it was too late. A black shape moved through the stars, a Terran stealth cruiser called the Revenant. It was built for silence and shadow. Its hull reflected no light, no signal, nothing. Only when it fired did anyone know it was there. Blue plasma torpedoes hit the Empire ships one by one. No wasted shots, no mercy. Within minutes, 8 ships were gone. The last 2 fled back across the border, engines burning, fear in their hearts. Back on Earth, the Terran Command Center received the report. Admiral Rayner watched the data appear on the screen. 8 enemy ships destroyed, no human casualties. He said quietly, "They crossed the line. They thought we were still the same." Commander Lee asked, "Do we chase them, sir?" Rayner shook his head. "No. Let them run. Let them tell their Emperor what happens when someone ignores a Terran warning." He turned toward the large window overlooking the stars. His reflection looked older, but his eyes were sharp. "For 100 years they laughed at us," he said. "Now they will remember." Outside, the Terran fleet moved like silent giants. Hundreds of ships, black and silver, waited near the border. Their engines glowed dim blue. They didn't move unless commanded. They didn't speak unless needed. The galaxy called them ghosts, but to humans, they were guardians. News of the border incident spread fast. In the Empire capital, the High Council received the report with anger and disbelief. 8 ships lost to humans? One council member shouted. Impossible. The Empire's emperor, tall and armored in gold, listened in silence. "If this is true," he said, "then humanity has grown too bold. They must be reminded of their place." But deep inside, even the emperor felt a chill. The last message from the destroyed ships echoed in his mind. "You were warned." Back on Earth, Admiral Rayner stood at the window looking at the stars. He remembered the old wars, when humanity was nearly wiped out by alien powers. He remembered the pain, the loss, and the promise they made to never be weak again. Now, the Terran Federation was united. Every colony, every planet, every ship worked as one. Their technology was beyond what the galaxy understood. Their silence was their strength, A young officer came to Rayner and said, "Sir, do you think the Empire will try again?" Rayner smiled slightly. "Of course. Arrogance always returns. But next time, we won't just warn them." He looked at the screen showing the stars near the border, glowing faintly red. Somewhere out there, the Empire was regrouping. Somewhere plans were being made for revenge, but the humans were ready. They had been ready for a century. As the lights dimmed in the command center, the Earth turned slowly below, blue and bright against the dark space. A single signal pulsed from the Terran beacon at the border, silent. Simple and eternal, "Do not cross," and in the distance, hidden inside the nebula, the Revenant waited like a ghost in the dark, ready for the next fool who would test humanity again. The space near the Terran border was quiet again, too quiet. The wreckage of the Empire's lost ships still drifted through the silent veil, glowing faintly with blue light. No one dared to enter that region anymore. The Empire called it cursed. The humans called it protected, but arrogance has no memory. 2 weeks after the first warning, the Galactic Empire sent another fleet. This time, it was larger, 200 ships with heavy cruisers and stealth destroyers. Their mission was simple: find the human fleet, learn their secrets, and destroy whatever waited inside the nebula. At the head of the fleet was Admiral Kale. His name was feared across the stars. He believed in strength, not caution. "Humans tricked us once," he said to his bridge crew, "but this time they will face real power." The fleet entered the border zone. Sensors picked up strange readings: energy spikes, static waves, gravitational distortions. But Kyle ignored them. He thought they were just defense systems trying to scare them. But deep in the fog of the nebula, something was watching, hidden behind layers of light distortion and plasma clouds. A single Terran stealth ship moved silently. Its name was the Revenant, the same ship that had destroyed the last Empire squad. Inside, Captain Rhea sat in her dark command room, eyes glowing from the holographic screens. "Contact confirmed," said her tactical officer. 200 enemy ships moving in formation." Rhea didn't blink. "Keep the cloak active. No lights, no noise. Let them come closer." Through the mist, the Empire fleet advanced. Their scanners failed again, but this time they had backup systems, massive sensor drones floating in front. One by one, the drones started to malfunction. The signal turned to static. "Admiral," said a nervous officer, "the drones are losing data." "Then send more," Kyle snapped. But before the new drones launched, one of the cruisers vanished from radar. "Sir, the Arathis just disappeared." Kyle stood up. "How?" No one answered. The fog outside grew thicker, like a living shadow surrounding them. Then a flash of light exploded behind them. One of the destroyers was gone. No debris, no wreck, only a swirl of blue energy left behind. Inside the Revenant, Captain Rhea gave quiet orders. "Fire pulse torpedoes, no trace. Keep formation." Invisible projectiles sliced through the darkness, hitting enemy ships one after another. No alarms, no bright explosions, just ships fading into silence. The Empire fleet started to break formation. Fear spread fast. Pilots shouted on the comms, "Something's in the mist. It's hunting us." Kyle clenched his fists. "All ships regroup. Use full sensors. Find them." Then a voice came through the static, cold, human. "You were warned. Leave now." Every soldier on the Empire bridge froze. The voice seemed to come from every direction, from the ship's own walls. "Trace that signal." Kyle shouted, but his systems were already shutting down. The lights flickered. Engines lost power. Their ships drifted helplessly. At that moment, dozens of dark shapes appeared from the mist. Terran ships, silent and precise. Their hulls reflected no light. They surrounded the Empire fleet like shadows in motion. Kale's officers stared in shock. "How many are there?" The scanners gave no answer. The machines couldn't even count them. Reese's voice echoed again, calm and sharp. "You entered Terran space. This is your last chance," Kale shouted back. "Humans are nothing compared to us. You hide in shadows because you fear real war." Rhea smiled slightly. "We don't fear war. We just end it fast." With a motion of her hand, the Revenant fired its main weapon. A wave of blue plasma shot across the fog, cutting through 10 ships at once. The Empire fleet broke completely. Some tried to flee, others surrendered, and a few fired blindly into the mist, but every blast missed. The Terran ships moved too fast, too silent. Within minutes the battle was over. Out of 200 Empire ships, only 10 escaped. The rest became dust drifting in the silent veil. Back at Mars Command, Admiral Rayner received the battle report. "The Revenant did her job," Commander Lee said. Rayner nodded slowly. "Good. Let them know what fear feels like." He turned to the holomap showing the galaxy. Red marks represented Empire fleets. He watched them carefully, then said, "They will come again. They always do. Prepare the Terran line. No one crosses again." The next day, across the galaxy, the Empire's remaining ships limped home. Their hulls were scorched, their systems broken, and their pride shattered. Admiral Kyle stood on his bridge, trembling with rage and disbelief. "What are they?" he whispered. "How can humans fight like that?" No one answered. In the distance, a single Terran beacon pulsed in the darkness, sending one message across every frequency. "You were warned." For the first time in centuries, the mighty Galactic Empire felt fear. And far away, hidden among the stars, the Terran fleet prepared for what was coming next. The humans didn't want war. But if war came, the galaxy would finally remember who they were. The galaxy was no longer the same after the Silent Veil incident. Rumors spread faster than light. In every station, every bar, every starport, whispers filled the air. The mighty Galactic Empire had lost 2 fleets near human space. No one understood how. No one saw the Terran ships clearly. Only one message was confirmed: you were warned. Across the galaxy, other races began to watch the humans again. For years, they had ignored Earth, thinking humans were small, emotional creatures fighting among themselves. But now, the silence from the Terran border made everyone uneasy. In the Empire capital, the High Council met inside the Grand Spire, a tower of black crystal that reached above the clouds. The Emperor sat on his throne, his golden armor reflecting the light of the twin suns. Around him stood his generals and admirals, their faces tense. Admiral Kyle, the survivor of the Silent Veil, knelt before the Emperor. His voice shook slightly as he spoke. "Your Majesty, the humans destroyed us without warning. Our weapons failed. Our senses went blind. They were everywhere and nowhere." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "You mean to tell me 200 ships vanished because of one human fleet?" Kyle hesitated. "Not even a fleet, sir. We only saw one main ship. A ghost ship they call the Revenant." The Emperor stood, anger burning in his voice. "One ship destroyed 200 of ours? Impossible! They are tricksters. We will crush them with our full power." But in the back of the room, one old advisor spoke quietly. "Majesty, perhaps we should not rush. The humans warned us once before, and they never warned twice." The Emperor ignored him. His pride was louder than his fear. "Prepare the Armada," he ordered. "We will teach Earth its place." While the Empire planned revenge far away on Mars, the Terran command watched everything. Admiral Rayner stood in the strategy chamber, looking at the holographic map showing the movement of the Empire's new fleet. "They are gathering again," said Commander Lee. "This time it looks like a full invasion force." Rayner nodded. "They didn't learn. But we are ready." Behind them, huge windows showed the Terran fleet, ships of all sizes moving in perfect order. Each one was silent, each one armed with technology the galaxy had never seen. Human engineers called it dark core energy. It was clean, endless, and invisible to most scanners. At that moment, Captain Rhea entered the room. She had returned from her mission aboard the Revenant. Her uniform was torn, her eyes sharp. "Admiral," she said, "the Empire is angry. They're gathering fleets near the Loran Gate. We saw it with our own eyes." Rayner turned toward her. "Good, let them gather. They think numbers will save them." Rhea smiled faintly. "They still don't understand us." Rayner walked to the center of the room and activated a large display showing the solar system. Around Earth, thousands of defense satellites blinked like stars. Above Mars, shipyards built new dreadnoughts every week. A golden ring of energy surrounded the inner planets. Project Aegis, he said. It's ready. Commander Lee looked impressed. The shield? Yes, Rayner said. If they come, not a single Empire ship will survive crossing it. Outside, the human colonies worked day and night. Workers built massive weapons platforms and orbital stations. Every soldier knew their purpose, not conquest but defense. Humanity did not want to rule the galaxy. They just wanted to protect their home. Still, the tension grew. Across the stars, the Empire's spies tried to enter human space. They sent small ships pretending to be traders, diplomats, and refugees. But every time they tried to cross the moon's orbit, something happened. One by one, their ships disappeared. No explosion, no trace, just silence. The Empire's secret report described it. Unknown field detected. Possible energy barrier surrounding Earth, it was true. The humans had built a shield, invisible, unbreakable, surrounding their entire system. It could stop any missile, any laser, even light itself. The Empire called it impossible. Humans called it Aegis. Meanwhile, news of the Empire's defeats reached the outer colonies. Small civilizations began to change their tone toward humans. They sent messages of peace, trade, and friendship. Some even offered alliances. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't the hunted. They were the wall no one could cross. But Rayner was not relaxed. He knew the Empire's pride would not let them stop. They will come again, he said to his officers. And when they do, they won't send scouts or cruisers. They will bring everything. On the edge of the galaxy, the Empire's fleets gathered near the Loran Gate, the only hyperspace route leading directly to Terran space. Their engines glowed red. Massive carriers and battleships lined up, forming a storm of metal and fire. Admiral Kale stood on the bridge of the Empire's flagship Eternal Wrath. This time, he said, we will erase the humans completely. But as they prepared to move, something unexpected happened. Their long-range sensors picked up hundreds of unknown signals, faint, cold, perfectly spaced. Kyle frowned. What is that? The technician looked pale. Sir, those signals, they're Terran ships. They're already here. The entire bridge went silent. In the distance, the stars began to move. What they thought were distant lights were actually ships, black and silent, forming a long, unbroken line. A message came through all frequencies, the same voice as before. Calm, steady, human. Do not cross the Terran line. Kyle stared at the screen, his heart cold. For the first time, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. And deep in the fog beyond the border, the Terran fleet waited, silent, watching, ready. The galaxy held its breath. For the first time in centuries, the stars themselves seemed to wait. The Galactic Empire had gathered the largest armada in its history, more than 1,000 ships shining like a wall of fire. They floated near the Loran Gate, the border that led to Terran space. Inside the flagship Eternal Wrath, Admiral Kale stood before the viewing glass. The light of a dying star reflected off his armor. This time, he said coldly, we will crush them. They hide behind their border like cowards. Today, we end the myth of the Terran fleet. But far away, beyond the nebula, humanity was already watching. In the Terran Command Center on Luna, Admiral Rayner looked at the holographic display showing the Empire's massive movement. Red dots filled the screen like a spreading infection. So, he said quietly, the storm finally comes. Commander Lee spoke beside him. That's more than 1,000 ships, sir. Their biggest fleet ever. Rayner didn't blink. Then we'll show them what happens when they fight a united Earth. He raised his hand. Activate the fleet. Across the solar system, silent alarms turned blue. On Mars, shipyards came alive. Huge dreadnoughts floated free from their docks, engines glowing like suns. On Jupiter's moons, the Terran Titans, ships the size of cities, began to move. From Neptune's orbit, stealth destroyers appeared like shadows, peeling away from the dark. One by one, thousands of human warships turned toward the same point, the border. Every soldier knew the order. Every ship knew its position. They didn't speak. They didn't shout. They simply moved, Within hours, the Terran fleet stretched across the stars, a silent line of steel and fire. Their formation was perfect, their discipline absolute. From far away, they looked like a single glowing wall between the galaxy and Earth. When the first Empire scouts saw the line, they froze. It was endless. The humans had built a living barrier, a border of ships so vast it looked like a second horizon. Kyle's officers stared at their scanners. "Admiral, there are hundreds of them, maybe thousands. We can't even count." Kyle's voice trembled with both fear and anger. "Impossible! They cannot build that many ships. They don't have the resources." But the truth was simple. Humanity had been building in silence for over 100 years. They had mined asteroids, built colonies, and created machines beyond imagination. While the galaxy laughed, they prepared. On the bridge of the Terran flagship Sol Vanguard, Admiral Rayner stood tall, surrounded by his officers. "No transmissions," he ordered. "No threats. Let them see what silence means." The fleets faced each other across the border. The Empire, with its bright gold ships and loud engines. The Terrans with their black, quiet steel. A strange stillness filled the void. For hours, neither side moved. Then the Empire made the first mistake. An impatient commander from the Empire's eastern flank sent a small squad across the line. 6 ships, scouts meant to test the human reaction. The moment they crossed, every Terran ship lit up. Sensors locked, weapons powered, but not one human fired. The scouts flew deeper, trying to provoke them. Suddenly their systems failed. Engines died. Lights flickered. Their ships froze in place. Then, one by one, they turned around, drifting back to the Empire side, engines off like dead leaves in space. When the Empire recovered them, no one was inside. The ships were empty. A wave of fear spread through Kyle's fleet. "What are they?" one officer whispered. Kyle didn't answer. His hands shook slightly as he stared at the Terran wall. Back on Earth, Rayner watched the same moment unfold through satellite feeds. "They still think we need to speak," he said quietly, "but they don't understand silence." At that same time, Captain Rhea aboard the Revenant waited within the nebula. Her ship was fully cloaked, sensors locked on the Empire Armada. "Admiral," she reported, "they're gathering power for a first strike. Do we engage?" Rayner paused. "Not yet. Let them come to us." The Terran fleet stayed still, their weapons cold, their ships unmoving, like statues made of metal. But inside, every system was ready. Every captain had their finger on the trigger. Then the Empire made its move. Thousands of engines roared. The Eternal Wrath led the charge. The Empire fleet crossed the border, weapons glowing bright red. "Fire!" Kyle screamed. Beams of light shot across space, cutting through the void. Explosions flashed, but none hit. The Terran ships moved with perfect timing, their shields absorbing everything like a mirror of energy. Then, Rayner gave a single command. "Respond!" In an instant, the Terran fleet moved. Their engines roared like thunder. Blue plasma waves shot forward in perfect unison. Every blast hit its target. Empire ships exploded in lines, like fireworks tearing through the stars. Kyle's bridge shook violently. "They're everywhere. How do they move so fast?" "They're not fast, sir," his officer replied, fear in his eyes. "They're predicting us." In less than 10 minutes, the Empire's front line collapsed. Hundreds of ships burned. Rayner watched from his command chair, eyes calm, voice steady. "Hold formation. Do not chase. Let them run." Across the galaxy, signals of panic filled the channels. The Empire had been stopped. Again. As the smoke cleared and the fire faded, the Terran fleet stood firm, silent and unbroken. On every human screen, one message blinked, sent to all frequencies. "The line is secure. No trespass allowed." The galaxy saw it. Every world, every race, every spy who watched that battle understood the same thing. Humanity wasn't fighting for glory. They were protecting something sacred, and as the stars cooled from the battle, the quiet returned, heavier, sharper, filled with a new kind of fear. The Terran fleet didn't speak. It simply waited for the next move, because humanity knew This was only the beginning. The battle near the Terran line had shaken the galaxy. No one had expected the humans to stand against the mighty Galactic Empire and win. But instead of victory songs or pride, there was only silence from Earth. The Terran Fleet didn't celebrate. They simply watched the border, ready for the next move. But silence made the Empire furious. Inside the Grand Spire, on the Empire's capital world, the Emperor walked through the Hall of War. Flames burned in the great torches beside the throne. Generals, admirals, and ministers stood in silence. Admiral Kale knelt before him. His uniform was torn, his face pale from sleepless nights. "Your Majesty," he said, "we underestimated them. Their ships move faster. Their weapons strike with precision we have never seen." The Emperor's voice was cold. "You lost 2 fleets. You brought shame to the Empire." Kale lowered his head. "I accept punishment, but hear me. This is not about my failure. This is about who they have become. The humans are no longer weak." The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. "Then we will make them weak again." He raised his hand toward the council. "We gather everything, every fleet, every weapon. We strike at once. If Earth wants to hide behind silence, we will burn their silence with fire." The plan was called Operation Dawnfire, a massive attack to destroy the entire Terran border and break through to Earth itself. Within weeks, more than 500 Empire ships gathered near the Loran Gate. They filled the void like a storm, waiting to explode. Kyle stood among them, his heart heavy. He knew this was madness. But no one could stop the Emperor's pride. As the fleet prepared to move, Kale whispered to himself, "May the stars forgive us." On the other side of the galaxy, the Terran command had already seen everything. Admiral Rayner stood in front of the holographic map, his face calm but serious. The red dots showing enemy ships grew thicker every minute. "So this is it," he said. "The final mistake." Commander Lee looked nervous. 500 ships, sir. They're coming fast. Do we launch the fleet?" Rayner didn't answer at first. He watched the glowing dots move closer to the border. Then he said, "No, wait." Captain Rear appeared on the screen from the Revenant. Her voice was steady. "Admiral, they're charging full power. Looks like they're going for a complete invasion." Rayner nodded. "Then we'll give them what they asked for. Prepare Phase 2. The Empire's armada crossed the border. Every ship was ready for war. Weapons glowed red, engines roared like thunder. Kale stood on his bridge shouting commands. "All ships, forward! Strike their first line!" But there was no first line. There were no Terran ships in sight. Only empty space. "Where are they?" one officer asked. Kale frowned. "This is a trick. Keep moving!" The fleet advanced deeper into Terran space. Still nothing. No enemy signals, no resistance. The silence felt wrong. Then one by one their sensors started to fail. Static filled the screens. The stars around them began to flicker. "Sir," said an engineer, "the navigation systems are jamming. We can't read coordinates." Kyle's heartbeat quickened. "Form defensive circle." But before the order finished, a deep hum rolled through the void. The Empire's ships began to shake. Energy readings spiked off the charts. Suddenly, hundreds of Terran ships appeared from the darkness, above, below, all around. They had been waiting in stealth mode, completely invisible. It was a trap. Admiral Rayner's voice came through every Empire frequency. Calm, clear, merciless. "You ignored our warning. Now you face the Terran fleet." The human ships opened fire. Blue plasma waves, railguns, and EMP bursts tore through the Empire's formation. Their shields collapsed instantly. Their engines froze. In less than 2 minutes, chaos consumed the armada. Ships collided. Fire spread across the void. Kale shouted, "Fight back! Target their flagship." But the weapons didn't respond. The Terrans had hacked their systems. Every Empire weapon turned cold. Then out of nowhere, the Sol Vanguard appeared, the massive Terran flagship, larger than any Empire ship ever built. Its shadow covered hundreds of kilometers. Rayner stood on its bridge. "End it," he said simply. The Sol Vanguard fired a single blast. A beam of blue-white light struck the Eternal Wrath, Kyle's flagship. The entire ship broke apart in silence, glowing for a moment before vanishing into dust. The rest of the Empire fleet panicked. Some tried to flee. Some surrendered. None escaped. Within 10 minutes, the battle was over. Commander Lee turned to Rayner. "It's done, sir. All hostile ships neutralized." Rayner looked at the holographic display. The Empire's red dots disappeared one after another until none remained. He spoke softly. "Send recovery ships for survivors. Let them live to tell the story," Lee frowned. "Sir, after all they've done?" Rayner nodded. "Yes, let them carry the message." He turned away from the screen. "We warned them." "They didn't listen. Now the galaxy will." Days later, fragments of broken Empire ships floated across the stars. Messages of shock filled the galaxy. Every civilization, big or small, knew what had happened. The Terran Fleet had defeated the strongest empire in the universe. And they didn't even cross the border. Back on Earth, people watched the news in silence. They didn't cheer. They didn't celebrate. They only looked at the sky, knowing the cost of power. Admiral Rayner stood alone in the command deck, looking at the stars. He whispered no one wanted this. But sometimes peace must be protected with strength. Behind him, Captain Rhea said quietly, "And now they will remember." Rayner nodded. Yes, humanity warned them once. That was their mistake. The wreckage of the Empire's Grand Armada drifted silently in the void. And across the stars, every world saw the same signal flash again from the Terran border. "Do not cross. You were warned." The Great War was over. The void between the stars was quiet again. The wrecks of the Empire's Grand Fleet drifted slowly, silent and cold. Pieces of broken metal floated through space like ghosts of a fallen army. No music of victory, no cheer of conquest, only silence. From the Terran command station orbiting Mars, the stars looked peaceful. But Admiral Rayner knew peace like this was dangerous. It was the kind of peace that came after destruction. He stood before the wide glass window of the command deck. His reflection looked older than before. The blue light of Earth glowed far below, soft and calm. Captain Rhea walked beside him. "The last of the rescue ships have returned, sir," she said quietly. "We recovered 300 Empire survivors. Most are wounded, some refuse to speak." Rayner nodded slowly. "Let them rest. They have already seen too much." Commander Lee joined them. "The galaxy is talking, sir. Every system is watching us. The smaller colonies are sending messages. They're asking if the Terran Fleet plans to invade the Empire now." Rayner turned his eyes toward the stars. "Invade?" He shook his head. "No, we don't conquer. We defend always." Lee hesitated. "But they think we will become the new empire." Rayner's voice was calm but heavy. "Then they don't understand humanity yet. We warned the empire not to cross our border. We did not say we wanted to rule theirs." Far across the galaxy, the empire's homeworld was burning in shame. The emperor's throne hall stood empty. The grand banners of gold were torn down. The people whispered in the streets, afraid to speak the truth, that the empire was no longer the ruler of the stars. Admiral Kale's name was carved on the memorial wall, honored as a man who tried to stop the madness but failed. Inside a dark chamber, the Imperial Council gathered for the first time since the defeat. The Chancellor's voice trembled. "We cannot fight them again. We don't even know how they hid their fleet." It was like they became the darkness itself. Another council member said, "They could have destroyed us completely, but they didn't. Why?" No one had an answer. Weeks passed. The galaxy changed. Trade routes shifted around Terran space. Old alliances broke apart. Many smaller civilizations sent envoys to Earth, not to fight, but to learn. The Terran Fleet had become a legend. People called them the Guardians of the Line. But inside the Terran command, Rayner didn't feel like a hero. Every night, he read the reports of the fallen, thousands of brave soldiers who never returned. Their names filled endless digital pages. Captain Rhea noticed his silence. "You did what you had to, sir. If you didn't act, billions would be dead by now." Rayner nodded, but his eyes stayed on the stars. Sometimes victory feels like another kind of loss. He turned to her. "Send the fleet into silent mode. No movement for 30 days. Let the galaxy see stillness from us." Rhea nodded. "Understood, Admiral." The order spread through the fleet. Every Terran ship powered down, weapons and engines floating quietly near the border. Thousands of dark shapes hung against the stars, massive, silent, unmoving. From distant worlds, people watched this strange sight. Some saw it as a warning. Others saw it as a sign of mercy. Then, one night, a signal came through the void. Weak but clear. It was from the Empire. "Terran Command," the voice said. "This is Regent Alara of the former Galactic Council. We surrender all hostile actions. We request peace and guidance." Rayner stared at the message for a long time. Guidance. Not alliance. Not truce. Guidance. He sent back a simple reply. "You have peace. But remember, power means nothing if wisdom is lost. Learn, rebuild, and never forget what silence costs." He closed the channel. Weeks turned into months. The galaxy calmed. The Empire rebuilt its cities. The Terrans remained silent behind their border, watching, waiting, guarding. But something strange began to happen. Sensors across Terran space started picking up signals from deep beyond the known regions. Unfamiliar frequencies. Non-human, non-Empire, and older than anything on record. Commander Lee looked uneasy. "Sir, it's coming from the dark zone beyond the spiral arm. We don't have any colonies there." Rayner frowned. "Then who does?" No one answered. Later that night, Rayner stood again by the window. The stars twinkled quietly, but a faint light pulsed far in the distance, slow, steady, and growing stronger. Captain Rhea stepped closer. "You see it too?" "Yes," Rayner whispered. "That's no star." A soft alarm beeped. The signal was spreading, reaching every scanner across the fleet. The silence after war was ending. Something else was coming. Rayner exhaled slowly. "Tell the fleet to prepare. The galaxy just woke up." Across the void, the mysterious pulse continued to flash, cold, rhythmic and ancient. And for the first time since the Empire's fall, the humans didn't feel like defenders. They felt like someone was watching them. The pulse from the edge of the galaxy did not stop. It came every 7 hours, one strong signal, one heartbeat in the dark. At first, the Terran scientists thought it was natural, maybe a dying star or a lost satellite. But then, the pattern changed. It began to form words. Commander Lee stared at the signal readout on his screen. His face turned pale. "Sir," he said to Admiral Rayner, "it's using an old Terran code. A signal from before the Empire War." Rayner frowned. "That's impossible." "No ship has ever gone that far." Lee turned the sound up. The voice came through the static, broken, weak, but human. "This is Terran exploration ship Odyssey. We found it. We found them." Then silence again. Captain Rhea stepped closer. "Sir, Odyssey went missing 90 years ago. How can this be?" Rayner didn't answer. He just watched the endless dark of space. "Send a scout team. We need to know what's out there." Days later, 3 Terran ships, Revenant, Soulwing, and Horizon, moved beyond the known border. The galaxy behind them faded into mist. Ahead was nothing but black. The further they traveled, the weaker the stars became, until only shadows remained. Captain Rhea led the mission from Revenant. Her voice was calm, but the crew could feel the tension. "Stay sharp," she said. "No signals except the pulse. No life forms detected, but as they got closer, the pulse grew stronger. It was not just sound anymore, it was energy. It passed through the ships, shaking their hulls. "Captain," said an engineer, "the readings are impossible. It's like the signal is alive." Rhea looked out the main screen. And then they saw it. In the middle of the darkness floated a massive object, larger than any planet. It was made of black metal, smooth and curved, shaped like a ring. Light flickered across its surface like breathing. "That's no ship," Rhea whispered. "That's something else." They tried to scan it, but every attempt failed. The object absorbed their signals, like it was studying them back. Suddenly, one of the screens on Revenant flickered. Lines of Terran text appeared, but they weren't typed by anyone on the ship. "We see you, children of Earth." The crew froze. Rhea's voice shook. "Who are you?" No answer. Then slowly a deep voice filled the ship. Calm, old and endless. "We were here before your empire. Before your kind learned to walk among the stars, the sound wasn't coming through speakers. It was inside their minds. Rayner, watching from the command center on Mars, heard it too. Across millions of kilometers, every Terran communication line echoed with the same voice. You have awakened what should have slept. The black ring began to move. Giant panels unfolded, releasing bright waves of energy that bent space itself. The Terran ships tried to back away, but their engines failed. The void around them twisted like water. Captain Rhea gripped her console. We're caught in a gravity lock. On Earth, alarms blared across the command center. Commander Lee shouted, "Sir, they're losing control. The energy field is spreading fast." Rayner clenched his fists. "Activate the Vanguard drive. Pull them out." But it was too late. A blinding flash swallowed the Terran ships. The signals vanished. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the pulse returned, louder than ever. 3 days passed. The Terran Fleet searched the entire sector. No trace of Revenant, Solwing, or Horizon. Rayner didn't sleep. He watched the endless data streams, trying to understand what they had found. Captain Rhea's final transmission replayed over and over. "That's no ship. It's watching." Then one night a new signal appeared, this time from inside Terran space. It came from the edge of the solar system. Commander Lee ran to Rayner. "Sir, we're getting readings from the Kuiper belt. It's the same pulse." "The object is here." Rayner's heart sank. "You mean it followed them?" "Yes, sir. It's in our system." The Terran defense grid powered up instantly. Thousands of ships aligned across the solar border. Massive railguns charged, ready to fire. Rayner stood on the bridge of Sol Vanguard again. The stars ahead began to fade, replaced by a growing darkness, and then it appeared. The black ring emerged from the void, moving slowly toward the sun. Its surface glowed with strange symbols. Every Terran system blinked and shut down. The voice returned, echoing through every channel, every ship, every mind. "Your kind has strength. But strength without purpose leads to ruin." Rayner stepped forward. "If you came to test us, know this: humanity does not bow." The voice paused. "We did not come to test. We came to remember." Suddenly a beam of light shot out from the ring, covering the Sol Vanguard. The crew shielded their eyes. When the light faded, the ship's systems returned. But all weapons were offline. The ring spoke again, softer this time. "Long ago, your ancestors sent us a message into the void. We were the ones who answered. But the galaxy changed, and we slept. Now we see what you have become." Rayner stayed silent. The crew listened, afraid to even breathe. "Guard this galaxy well, humans of Earth. Something else is coming. Something even we cannot stop." Before anyone could speak, the black ring folded into itself and vanished, leaving only the fading pulse in the dark. The silence that followed was deep and endless. Commander Lee whispered, "Sir, what did they mean?" Rayner looked at the stars, calm, cold, and full of secrets. He finally said, "It means the real war hasn't even begun." He turned to the crew. "Signal every fleet. Strengthen the border. Humanity stands ready." Captain Rhea's voice echoed through the speakers, a message from her last transmission, clear and calm. "If anyone hears this, remember what we found. It's not the end. It's the beginning." Rayner looked out into the darkness. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, something vast and ancient was watching, and for the first time, humanity was not warning the galaxy. The galaxy was warning humanity.